My name is Paul Vasquez, JD. That's how you'll find me on the YouTube. I am president of Tax Lab, Pro Business Solutions, co-founder in the Singularity Network, and inventor of the Hat Tack. How about that? But that's not what I want to talk to you guys about today.
The Poorest King of Babylon. Many of you know the story of the richest man in Babylon, but you might not know about the poorest king of Babylon. Before the days of Arcad, and even before the days of Algamish the sheepherder, before Babylon was the richest city in the known world, an Amorite built the walls of Babylon and named himself king. King Hammurabi built the walls which stand as the city's main defense for thousands of years to come. But this tale is not of him. I will speak to you about his son, Samsu-iluna. When Samsu inherited the kingdom from his father, it had dwarfed even the holy city of Nippur, and no one knows if it was the jealousy of the gods or just the end of a prosperous season, but a great drought had fell on the city. Now Babylon was located between two rivers, but it took time to bring the water from the rivers to the city, and with the heat came fire. Fires that would burn both home and garden. The walls also limited the people from entering closer to where the fires would ignite. Drought soon led to famine. But the new king, Samsu-iluna, was too fearful to flee the city, as he had no skills of his own, nor could he allow his subjects to flee, as a king without subjects is no king at all.
The walls of Babylon be high,
He would say,
rebuild thine homes closer to them, that they provide thee shade. Thou canst hope to find shade under a tree, for it might also succumb to the heat. But the walls of Babylon defy both man and gods, and will protect thee.
Samsu began to think his father was a fool, to build a city so far from shore.
Yea, boats could not besiege the city, but this drought will do us in just the same.
Samsu began to search his mind for times when his father suffered from a similar plight, but he could not think of.
No wonder my father could build such a glorious kingdom. The gods must have loved him so to bless him with that luck. And why not me? Surely I have done little to offend the gods, as I was but in his shadow, as though he himself were these walls. Were not my father more loving of me, and to put me to task to teach me how to be king, and not just to let me spend my youth in entertainment and games?
But his mind turned to a game he used to enjoy as a child. He remembered a tragedy his father had with the walls, but could not remember what it was. He sent for all of his father's former advisors. Most were dead, others were weary of mind. But one came to Samsu, Dapani. Dapani was both wise and kind. Samsu called for Dapani. Dapani soon arrived and revived the story in the mind of Samsu-iluna.
When thou wast quite young, the walls were more thin than they are today. The more thin walls reached high, but the desert storm did come, a storm that few had seen the likes of, which because of much of the city's walls were left in ruin. Your father was a wise man, and did not just replace the walls as they once stood, but with larger and thicker ones, walls that neither man nor gods would destroy.
Samsu, thinking almost out loud, said,
But how did he know to build them thicker? I might have just rebuilt them and offered a bigger tribute at Nippur. 'Twas not tribute that taught your father, but Suziyash, your father's chief architect. But why didn't father's chief architect not tell him to build the wall more thick from the start? Suziyash was not in your father's employ at the time. Your father saw the ruin of the walls as an opportunity to rebuild better. So before a new brick was laid, he sent notice far and wide that he would richly reward anyone who could prove a plan to give him walls to rival the will of man and gods, and then implement it. That's it. I too will give a decree that whosoever should prove a plan to end the drought, King Samsu Iluna would richly reward.
The decree went throughout all of Babylon and the surrounding areas. All touched by the plague knew of the king's challenge, and the king listened day in and day out to all those who would be wealthy. Many from Nippur offered new prayers, chants, challenges that were sure to lose the tears of heaven or even the floods of demons. Nothing changed. Would-be soothsayers would be in the king's employ and thrown out on the days their predictions fell through. Years passed. The king was right about one thing. The walls his father built did protect them and give them shade. In that shade, the people of Babylon turned from plow to pen, and from laborers to tradesmen and merchants. The city waned in the shade, but the king's coffers did grow, for trade was necessary. As the merchants trade, the stories of the king's ransom for rain likewise spread. One not-so-fine day, in the shade of the palace wall, there was announced another from Nippur who claimed to have a provable solution to the kingdom of Babylon's drought. King Samsu had heard it all.
Not another one from Nippur. Will they dance, or wilt's that I?
Just the king. King Samsu had heard so many from Nippur that he thought it more entertaining to hear what riches people requested more than the solutions they brought. So without looking up from his game board, King Samsu-Iluna said,
State thy name and thine price.
The petitioner started.
My name is Orcamus, but Sir Great King Sir, I am not from Nippur. I just live there to learn your language and terminology as
the petitioner Orcamus spoke, King Samsu moved a piece across the board. Orcamus, seeing that he had the presence of the king, but not his ear, motioned to the game board and said,
May I?
To this, King Samsu did look up. With excitement, he seemed to forget even that the man was there for something in particular.
Dost thou play? No, Sir Great King, great Sir, but you asked my price and now I give it. If I can prove and implement my plan, then I would have 1 grain of wheat for the first check on your board, 2 for the second check, 4 for the third, and may my payment double thereafter for every check on your board.
King Samsu burst out with laughter.
Art thou a priest or a madman? Most ask for gold, some as bold as to ask for a daughter, but grains of wheat? I will agree with the payment thou dost require, if not but to hear what solutions a mad Atlantean from Nippur could entertain me with. Thank you, Sir Great King, great Sir.
Orcamus had his apprentices bring in a scaled-down model of the city and surrounding areas. The model reached from the city all the way out to the rivers on each side, but with lines smaller than roads moving in and out of the city and surrounding areas, connecting to multiple points in each river. With cups of water, Orcamus demonstrated with these lines the city would draw and use the water surrounding them. So long as there was water in the rivers, there would be water in Babylon, regardless of the sun and rain, explained Orcamus. For months, the advisors of the king and the notable craftsmen of the king tested the plan of Orcamus. Orcamus' plan was proven, and with the resources of the kingdom it was implemented.
Babylon would grow.
But the king played no more games. He was happy for his kingdom and his people, but the grains of wheat now laid heavy on his mind. King Samsu called for Orcamus. Orcamus attended the king's request.
Sir, great king, great sir, have you called me here to pay me or to kill me? It would be easier to kill thee than to pay thee. I wouldst think that thou hast tricked me, and as such death would be your reward. But my kingdom needs wise people, Orcamus. There's not enough wheat in the kingdom, yea, even it might be the world to pay thee. Nor dost thou have the pedigree to be king. If I were to make thee king, many would seek thine life, as Atlanteans are looked on with mystery and suspicion. If you will accept my counter, I will not kill thee, but I will grant thee my wealth. I will still be king and go about my kingly duties and live in my family's estate, but from now on all my increase will be thine. The increase of the kingdom would not be were it not for thee, but of what I, my father, and my people have built, we will keep. Asking for a grain of wheat more would be seen by many as asking for war, and thou art far from home. This solution I give thee is just and wise. What say you, Sir Great Orcamus, great sir? You are an honorable king, and I will agree to your wise terms and continue to serve Babylon as I have now a wife and children who call Babylon home. Sir Honorable Great King, Great Honorable Sir.
Over the years, King Samsu-Iluna sold off his riches to buy food and the necessities of life. And when he died not with a grain of wheat to his name. The name of King Samsu-Iluna and that of Orcamus have long been forgotten, but the tale of the foolish king, the Wiseman, and their checkerboard lives on today as an example of the effects of compound interest.
You've just been listening to the tale of the poorest king in Babylon. But the story of compound interest isn't enough to secure that you will become like the richest man in Babylon. If you know the book, there are a few more principles, but even the modern day execution of these principles bear some insight. And I'll get into that for you in some videos to come. So compound interest in and of itself is a great principle. I would encourage you to follow through on the wise man's advice to the king and see how far you can go with that calculation. In another video, I'll kind of break down how this is actually working in reality today. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, comment, and look at the links. There's a whole bunch of free tools down there, including ways you can get some free money just by downloading apps and utilizing things like Robinhood, M1 Finance, Webull. You can earn money utilizing your skills with Gigsy.com and iFreelanced.com. Check all these resources out in the description. I try to do what I can to help you guys, but I can't do it for you. This is a journey you have to take on for yourself. Talk to you guys later, and remember to save strong.